Did you guys see that movie, Passion of the Christ? Awesome movie. I remember when I went to see it, I didn't know that there were some of my friends there also seeing it with their parents. And when the movie was over, I stood up and it was like just dead silence, in the theater. It was a feeling in the theater that you will never get. Just this movie, it was different. It was like a solemn, just like a sign of respect. Everyone got up and it was, shocking. And I saw my friends there. I'm like, hey, how are you? And it was awesome to see them there also watching the movie. We're all like teary eyed. I'm going to read to you from Mark. Let's go Mark 14:53. Let me make sure. Yes, I was right. I'm constantly getting emails from folks, Wiccans, pagans, atheists, Satanists, agnostics, people of all different faiths, and they will say, well, Jesus never confessed to being the Son of God. But when I read this to them, and I read this passage with them, they're like shocked. They're like, oh my gosh, I never saw that before. So let's read this together, you guys. And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and the chief priest and the elders and the scribes gathered together, and Peter had followed him at a distance right into the courtyard of the high priest. Now, let's do something here. This is the Bible that I do write in. I have another one that D-Man, my friend D-Man for Christ, got me on YouTube, and I don't write in that one. Let's pretend you're Peter, okay? You and I are Peter, symbolically in this story. And he was sitting with the officers and warming himself at the fire. That's you and I, okay? Now the chief priest and the whole council kept trying to obtain testimony against Jesus to put him to death, and they were not finding any. So they're trying to drum up some type of lie, to put Jesus to death, but they can't because he's innocent. For many were giving false testimony against him, and yet their testimony was not consistent. They couldn't get their lies together. And some stood up and began to give false testimony against him, saying, quote, we heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another made without hands, unquote. And not even in this respect was their testimony consistent. And the high priest stood up. So by the way, this whole episode, what's happening here is they're trying to put Jesus to death. And they're searching and trying to find guilt in him, and they cannot. Until, watch what happens. And the high priest stood up and came forward and questioned Jesus, saying, do you make no answer? What is it that these men are testifying against you? So he's trying to get Jesus to trip up, come on, talk. But notice he is capitalized, speaking of Jesus and his divinity, kept silent and made no answer. Again, the high priest was questioning him and saying, now, watch this, you guys. For those of you, pagans, Wiccans, atheists, agnostics, everyone that says, oh, he never said that he was, the Son of God. Watch what happened. Here's proof that he did. High priest was questioning him and saying to him, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? It doesn't get any more narrow and accurate than this. And Jesus said, so the whole time Jesus is silent, now they ask him, and I bet they were shocked when Jesus opened his mouth, and look what he says, I am. And you shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven. So not only does Jesus respond to them that he is the Son of the Blessed One, he is the Christ. Notice he's saying he is. I am. He also talks about power and coming with the clouds of heaven. When Jesus says this, the high priest and all the other men with him are like, we got him. Because for you to say you're the Son of God is blasphemy. And what they would do as a sign of blasphemy, they would actually tear their clothes as a sign of that. So watch what happens here. Jesus says, I am, and you shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven. And look what the high priest does. And tearing his clothes. There is no question that Jesus said he is the Son of God. There'd be no reason why this high priest would tear his clothes. Jesus said, I am. It is without debate. Jesus said he is the Son of God. And it says, and tearing his clothes, the high priest said, what further need do we have of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. And it is true, if Jesus was not the Son of God, that is blasphemy. But he is the Son of God. Even what they're accusing him of, he is innocent of that blasphemy. But they understood, the point being they understood that he was claiming to be the Son of God. Do you see that, you guys? My pagan friends, my Wiccan friends, my atheist friends, my Satanist friends, my agnostic friends, do you see that? There is no debate here. I don't care how someone tries to twist the scripture and make it where he didn't say he was. Look, I am. And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. Now, it is a mystery to me how someone can read this Bible and read these words and not be moved. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, I am moved. When I read this, and some began to spit at him and to blindfold him and to beat him with their fist. And look how mean this is, what they're saying. Prophesy. They were saying to him, prophesy. Who struck you? Even mocking him. Now, what is awesome about this is he chose to do this because he loved us so much. Remember Peter. You and I are Peter. In this parable here, we are a typology, you and I, of Peter. That's why Peter is within the story. He represents you and I. Now watch what happens. And as Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came, and seeing Peter warming himself, she looked at him and said, you too are with Jesus the Nazarene. But he denied it. Are you watching this video and have you denied Jesus Christ? Well, that's what Peter did. He said, I neither know nor understand what you are talking about, because Peter was afraid. And he went out onto the porch, and the maid saw him and began once more to say to the bystanders, this is one of them, one of Jesus' disciples. But are you Peter? You listening to this? Are you and I Peter? Where again he denies Jesus Christ? And after a little while the bystanders were again saying to Peter, surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean also. You are a Galilean too. Now look what happens. But he began to curse and swear, I do not know this man you are talking about. And immediately, this is what Jesus prophesied about, Peter said, I would never deny you. And Jesus said, the cock will crow and you will deny me. And sure enough, immediately a cock crowed a second time, and Peter remembered how Jesus made the remark to him, before a cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. Watch this. And he began to weep. Are you Peter?